Welcome to the Teaching Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Homberg-Smith. Think of me as that teacher bestie navigating together the magical moments and messiness of teacher life. If you are looking to upgrade your life, whether that's inside or outside of the classroom, then you have come to the right place. It's my intention in this podcast to bring you all the topics, because as we know, teachers are a big mixed bag of interest after that lanyard comes off at the 3 p.m. bell. So please come pull up a chair around my table and let's talk teacher life at Teaching Unfiltered. This podcast is sponsored by Lizard Learning Publishing. Rightio, let's jump right into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Teaching Unfiltered. This episode's going to be a little bit longer than most, but I'd love to share a bit about my journey and why I am so passionate about supporting, guiding and empowering teachers in a podcast space such as this. Now, I'd like to give you a glimpse of what to expect from Teaching Unfiltered and why you should hit that little subscribe button. The topics which will be a focus in this podcast are not only going to be transformative, but also the very essence of what kept me going in my teaching career. And further, once I became an educational author and an owner of a publishing company, they all helped me. And I thought, why not be able to share what I know and help you too? I really needed to power up my mindset like no other time in my life before. But when you put author after your name, like I have with the 34 books that I've authored at Lizard Learning, I sell them around the country, in bookstores, online, on Amazon, all the popular bookstores, all that inner stuff that we have lurking under the surface of our subconscious, it raises its ugly head. So self-help and personal development, spirituality and mindset and the well-being work, this all started when I first started teaching. Now, I needed big time help to stand up to the teaching world, and it was parents in particular that I really struggled with. This is when this journey of empowerment started for me in 2006 in my early 30s. Now, before this, I had a full career in my 20s as a registered nurse. So a big hello and shout out to all my fellow RNs who have jumped ship from a hospital to a classroom. Now, I was 2 years into my teaching career when I was drowning, and I knew I needed help with growing my confidence, but in particular knowing that I was enough and that I was deserving, that I was worth this role of teacher. I needed help setting boundaries for myself. My self-esteem and my self-confidence needed a whole lot of work. My beliefs in myself were so low and totally in my boots. From 2006, for me, my life has been just one huge trajectory of personal development on steroids. I have taken so many courses, I've been to psychologists, I've listened to thousands of hours of personal development, mindset and empowerment podcasts. My book list is ridiculous. I've attended conferences and talks and I've learnt so much. And through my own personal experiences and working through what worked and didn't work for me, I'm hoping that everything I've learned can be shared with you to help you on your teacher life timeline, wherever this might be for you currently. Now, you might have only just arrived to the teacher life timeline as a new student at uni. You might be a new grad on your first contract or doing the relief teacher rounds. You might just be a full-time teacher. Relief teacher. I do relief teaching from time to time. I love it. It totally fills my bucket. It keeps me on the ground, so I am able to relate to you more and be of service and duty even more, so I can stay relatable to what's going on in teaching. You might be a few years in on the teacher timeline and wondering, is this all there is to teaching? Teaching could be your calling and you wouldn't dream of leaving this profession. And you're in this for the long haul. You might be a teachpreneur and you love the lifestyle of having your own business, and that might be summoning you. As so many teachers seem to be doing these days with their side hustles and their small little businesses, retirement might be near and you need help with knowing what to fill your bucket next with, like teaching has done for you for years. There will be juicy information for everyone, no matter where you sit on that timeline of teaching. I promise there will be some information or some takeaways for you in every episode. Now, I started as a full-time teacher back in 2004. I have worn many hats in the education field, from a relief teacher, a classroom teacher, to author and educational publisher. I've even been on the Today Show with Carl Stefanovic and Lisa Wilkinson on Channel 9, and I was Australia's NAPLAN fairy godmother. I was guiding teachers, students, and parents through the tips and the strategies to help through NAPLAN time. Now, for anyone outside of Australia, NAPLAN is Australia's standardised testing for all schools throughout our country. It's a main sort of data point to review our teaching practices. It was the personal development, the self-help, the mindset practices, empowerment, the psychology of what it takes to be a teacher today, and spirituality that really kept me in teaching. And it led me to realize my worth and my power inside and outside of the classroom. I had to find my joy again. For when I found my own joy, that's when I turned my life from a very unhappy educator or teacher person to one that saw opportunities, and I finally started to take them. My life soared from here on when I found all these mindset techniques. I had the confidence in myself to hand over my full-time teacher permanent stamp back to Education Queensland. I started Lizard Learning. I flew around the country meeting bookstore owners. I attended trade shows with my little company, Lizard Learning. Now, this was a person, remember, who wouldn't say boo in a staff meeting or speak up in any fashion inside with like a group of people. I was raised to be seen and not heard. There has been a lot of inner work around this, and I'm still unpeeling the layers to discover more. And this is the journey that you can come on with me in this space if you are willing to take on that challenge of personal growth and discovering your joy for life as a teacher inside and outside of the classroom, because that is a lot of what we will be unpacking here and we'll be discovering for ourselves. Now, I'd like to briefly touch on the uncharted territory of teacher mindset. Now, in 2006, there was a significant gap in the teaching space when it came to finding teachers speaking about personal development and mindset. While there were plenty of life, business coaches and speakers in the business and personal development world, there were no teachers exploring these concepts. I developed this daily practice of what I now called my morning pages. And I desperately needed something. I needed some spirituality. I needed to know that there was something else bigger than me helping me. And that's when I turned to like the law of attraction and manifestation and visualization. And then I created this little technique, and I would turn to a page in my many self-help books and I would just read that page. And this would be the message I needed to focus on for that day. And it was often the book, The Secret, from Rhonda Byrne. I'll explain a little bit more about her later on in this podcast and in more episodes. And I would just read from that one page and close the book. And then I was like in a little vortex. That's from Abraham Hicks, not my term by any means. And just nobody could hurt me then because I was powered up with my little mindset message for the day. But it was unfortunate that I had to turn outside of my profession, though, to find information to power up my mindset every day. To help you out, the people that I followed were Oprah and Tony Robbins and Jay Shetty, Gabby Bernstein, Marie Forleo, Mel Robbins, Brené Brown, just to name a few, to give you some examples. But there was no one, and there really still isn't anyone empowering our teachers with the kind of strength, the mindset, and the empowerment teachers are needing these days to stay in this profession. I know how much teachers are needing these tips and strategies and teachings in all these growth mindset topics because I see your accounts at the coaches and the speakers and the Instagram accounts that I follow, and you are all there. But instead of you seeking advice and going outside of the profession to get it from these amazing people, they are incredible people, and I still tap into all of them every day. However, they really don't have any idea about teacher life. They really are pitching their message to business owners. But now that we've got this podcast, then you can follow a teacher who knows the struggles, but also has the runs on the board to help you as a teacher in any situation that you might be in teacher life where you need that spirituality help or that mindset help or a tip on personal growth or how to handle that parent or whatever the situation might be. Because I have thousands and thousands of hours of this stuff behind my belt, under my belt with my own education that I've done for myself. Our unique experiences and challenges as teachers, they really deserve a spotlight. And that's what this podcast is going to be about. Now, Teaching Unfiltered, this just aims to be a really safe haven for teachers. You can turn to this podcast for pick-me-ups, comforting information to help you navigate your teaching journey. You might just tap into it every now and then when you need advice. If you're seeking joy again, like I was, then this podcast is going to find it for you. I will show up for you each week, maybe a couple of times each week. I'm not too sure. Definitely each week to be that consistent person in your life, helping you with your mindset, to help you rediscover your love for teaching and find joy both inside and outside of the classroom. We'll be addressing the struggles that you face in the classroom. Then we'll create actionable plans to tackle them, and we'll focus on bringing joy back into your life. Now, if you're like me, I was dead inside. I was joyless. I would wake up, I would start thinking about my lessons, my kids, and the meetings and the to-do list. I would arrive into my classroom with an absolute stinking feeling of dread, and I would put on my performance hat and I'd smile at the 8:45 bell in the morning bell, and I'd make sure everyone else was happy all day. And I went about ticking off the tasks one by one, the next meeting, that next playground duty, the parent phone call, or that marking, the assessment work. I would drive back to Bribie Island where I lived, which was like a good hour from school, and I would mostly drive in silence. I would arrive home exhausted, and I didn't have kids back then. Now, a big shout out to any parents who have kids and teach full time. I mean, even if you teach part time, I don't know how you do it. I would maybe do like a walk along the foreshore and then home to make dinner. I would watch some telly, and then I would do it all over again tomorrow. I was utterly, completely lost. I had no me. I completely had lost myself. If you are like me with feeling soulless, the whole intention of this podcast is to help you find you again. Now, if you aren't lost, if you don't feel soulless, if you feel fulfilled, that's great. Then this podcast, it'll be just your daily top up. It will be the prevention so you don't get to that point where life becomes soulless and only teach a life lived, because there is a whole big life outside of teaching, and I'm going to help you make sure that you seek it out daily and that you don't lose yourself. I will be helping you get to a place where life is fulfilled for you, whatever that might look like. There is no judgment in how we are going to get there. Now, to wrap up this section of the podcast, I would like to basically summarize the work I do for teachers here at the podcast and in my coaching. And that is, my intention is to empower you to take control of your life, both inside and outside of the classroom, one small action at a time, so you live a life filled with joy and fulfillment. Now, I want to take a moment just to say how excited I am to be here. I have not done very well creating a community or a movement on socials. I suffer terribly with visibility blocks, and I find it really hard to stay consistent being visible with you. That's like in regard to one-to-one video or face-to-face reels. Now, I've realized that my strengths, they lie in communication and curriculum and courses and coaching. They aren't necessarily in dancing on TikToks or video production. And this is why I'm so excited to be able to produce a podcast finally, where I can be of service and duty that I've wanted to be every day for teachers, using both my skills and experience as a teacher and a coach without having to put a stitch of makeup on or even a bra on. Now, I'm here to share my insights and expertise in my zone of genius, which are the topics that I've discussed, which is the mindset and the psychology of what it really takes to teach these days. As we grow, this podcast will become our hero content, and it will be that hub for support and collaboration among teachers. Now, I hope this podcast fosters a strong and supportive community where teachers can connect, where they can collaborate and support each other regardless of where you are in your teaching journey. If you are a teacher, you'll know that teaching life timeline is a very long one, as we often identify as teacher long after we have left that traditional teaching space. We all know that teaching isn't just a job, it's a passion and it's a calling. Now, in saying that, I am very guarded by using the word calling, because it still doesn't mean that we have to be a pushover, that we need to take abuse, have others cross our boundaries, or to be treated unfairly. You can still be a teacher and have very clear expectations on what you will and will not tolerate. And we will be really opening up to all of these discussions, which we'll be doing here on future episodes. And we're really going to normalize that teachers don't work for free. We aren't putting up with poor, intolerable conditions because it's for the kids. Now, we are drawing a line in this podcast and saying we can be kind people. We are very giving. We are very caring. We are very loving. We call teaching our calling. Yes, and we do it for the love of it. Yet, we are also educated professionals, just like lawyers, doctors, and psychologists. You would not expect not to pay them the money that they're worth. And we will be standing by this and treated as such and paid as such, or at least talking about those principles here at Teaching Unfiltered. Now, as of the time of this recording in 2023, I see in the media yesterday, $10 million recruitment drive is on at the moment to bring more people into the profession. And the campaign is called Be That Teacher. Now, I don't know whether that campaign is followed up to be that teacher that is disrespected, be that teacher that is unpaid for another 40 hours of work, that are unpaid with the planning and assessments and marking that they have to do, or be the teacher who doesn't have the resources that they need to teach, so they pay it out of their own money. Excuse me, I'm even choking on the idea of it. Or be that teacher that is hit and spat at and abused daily. Now, I need to get the Prime Minister on here to Teaching Unfiltered, so if you know him or whoever thinks of these madcap waste of money ideas, please let him know where I'm at. And let's connect, because when it comes to the teaching profession, boy, oh boy, people come up with some crazy ideas as to how to get more teachers in. But I have a very simple idea. Pay that $10 million out across the fortnightly pays to the already incredible, experienced teachers we already have and keep them. Don't recruit new ones. Invest in the educated, the experienced, the gifted, the talented teachers that you already have, Australian government. Show the current teachers you have the respect that they deserve. Pay them $160,000 a year. This will keep more teachers in the profession. I can promise the government this. Now, a thing to note, teachers, they take up a massive part of the workforce, and I don't know whether the government have thought of this. Teachers also have kids. Now, these kids are the ones going into this workforce as our next generation. And many of these kids are the kids of teachers. They watch their parents daily struggle in this profession. Kids have so much opportunity with employment these days, even from starting their own businesses from scratch. They can be influenced on social media and so on. Our kids are brought up in this age that you don't have to stay where you aren't happy and aren't fulfilled. It's just the generation that we have been building and creating. It's that quick, fast economy. You don't like a job, you're out and into the next one. Now, that wasn't how I grew up. I grew up that you got a university degree, you stayed in that job, you bought one house, you paid off your HECS debt, you worked for 40 years, you took your superannuation, you enjoyed your retirement for a little bit, and then it was lights out. I mean, basically that was it. Now, why on earth would these kids follow in their parents' footsteps when they see the conditions and work involved of teaching, where their parent has been taken away from many activities and household activities because of this job called teaching? Now, this is just definitely one to unpack. It seems like a no-brainer to me, but it's definitely something that we're going to unpack in future podcasts. And you can see that this podcast, we are going to be tackling all the topics, not just the happy clappy ones that's going to keep everyone feeling good about this profession or not triggering anyone. We will be tackling all the tough topics too. Now, we'll be keeping these episodes to about 30 minutes. This won't be 30 minutes because I really have a lot to talk to you about, because as I said, I haven't really shown myself on the socials at Lizard Learning, and I think you really deserve this part of me and, to hear my journey and to hear my experience and to hear that backstory. But 30 minutes, it's that perfect duration for your daily commute. Each episode will provide easy and simple tips, teaching, and strategies. Just take from it what you need, and you'll be empowered to take action 1% better than what you were yesterday. That's all you need to do from each podcast. And remember, I so value your feedback. The best way to reach me is through DM at lizard_learning. Your feedback will absolutely be shaping this podcast. It will be community led. You will help it grow, and you will ensure that it continues to provide valuable insights for you, because I'll be taking what you tell me and I will be entwining that through all the episodes. Now, Teaching Unfiltered will focus on helping you become just better each day, emphasizing personal growth and that continual self-improvement that we all need to keep ourselves out of those comfort zones and growing as human beings. Like the saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? Just one small bite at a time. Now, vegans, don't DM me. I promise no elephants or animals were harmed in the making of this podcast. We're not here to compare ourselves to others. I call this comparison-itis, and it's a topic that we'll be discussing in later episodes. But to focus on our individual growth journey is what the focus is. Small daily actions lead to significant changes. We are not going to be looking at the teacher next door and seeing her beautiful Pinterest classroom or those amazing teacher activities. We are not going to be doing any of that. We're going to be staying in our lane, and we're going to be playing our game. We are just going to be growing 1% each day. Now, that would be a 365% growth rate in 12 months' time. You'll be chasing those dreams and taking action on those goals like a ninja. Now, these goals could include the classroom, for example, how to have a better reading group experience, or how to increase writing skills or results for your students, or how to create a great culture at your school with the staff. I mean, that would be a good one to delve into. But your goals and dreams might not include the classroom or your teaching at all, and that is totally fine. Everyone is welcome here. And personally, my goals were not for teaching when I started in this world of personal development. It was 100% to help me with my mindset in my personal life. Your goal might be to go on that 6-month overseas adventure, or to buy that dream car, or to elope to the Maldives, or write a book, or leave the profession altogether and start that side hustle. Remember, there is no judgment here. We all belong, because that teacher life timeline is so long and it's so complex, and we all sit on different spots. And this podcast is to help empower your mindset no matter where you might be. And I'm here to meet you where you are and transition you easily to make that next right move. Now, let's dive into my personal story very briefly, so not to bore you, but to give you, my listener, just some insight as to why I am qualified, or why I would even be interested in hosting a podcast to help teachers with just those tips and tricks that will expand their life, discover their joy again inside and outside of the classroom, and see that life really is full of opportunities. I've been a qualified primary school teacher since 2004. I have taught all the grades, but I did teach full-time in the various years from grade 1 to grade 4. And I have faced many, many, many challenges along the way, from a single mum to a successful publishing company owner. I've had no business experience. Certainly no one was an author in my world, or that anyone that I could turn to for advice when I was building Lizard Learning. I had no sugar daddy or a rich family who funded any of my business dreams. I've really built it from the ground up. And everything that I've achieved is through holding a dream, being passionate, determined, and having unwavering faith that I would achieve what I desired. And we're really going to be delving into those topics at Teaching Unfiltered. Now, I've overcome so many obstacles, and I want to inspire you to know that you can too if you are in a tough phase of your life at the moment. Now, I started my journey as a really lost high school student with aspirations of becoming a nurse. Like, teaching was so far from, I didn't even think about it, wasn't even a thought. Now, a school guidance officer, counselor, she once told me I couldn't pursue nursing because of my perceived inability to handle certain subjects. Now, I wasn't great academically, but learning now that I have ADHD, so I was just diagnosed by a psychologist a few weeks ago. Now, this would have been a huge barrier for me, but in the 80s, ADHD diagnosis, and especially for a girl, this was not even a thing like it is today. I mean, every second Instagram account that you look at, it's somebody talking about ADHD. If you've been diagnosed with ADHD later in life, like I have, I'm 47 at the time of this recording, 2023, or you have a child with ADHD, I would love to know your story. Please reach out on the DMs at lizard_learning and tell me all about it. Now, I'm not sure if this happens now. However, in year 10, we would sit with the guidance officer and work through like our subjects for our senior years. I went to the Gap State High School in Brisbane, and I remember in this interview, I told this guidance officer that I wanted to be an RN, and her reply was, "You're never going to be an RN, Cindy, because you can't do the difficult maths and science subjects like physics, biology, and chemistry. I can only put you into geography and ancient history, and those subjects that aren't going to qualify you for nursing, unfortunately." Now, I thought, like, I was 15, I was just a kid, right? And I remember thinking to myself that I can't believe that this woman is telling me that I can't do something and that I can't be something that I want to be. And I think this is where my love for personal development started and the reason for this podcast today. However, it took me, unfortunately, 20 years before personal development crossed my path, but she really lit a fire inside when she said I couldn't be a nurse. I have never been great at following the norms or being told what to do, even though I would never have said boo as a student in class, which is very patriarchal conditioning, which we'll be talking about in later episodes. However, deep inside, having someone tell me I wouldn't achieve my dreams, like, look out, because my mum raised me to believe in myself and to know that I could do anything. As I sat in front of this guidance officer, even at 15, I was a 15-year-old kid, I said, who the hell am I not to become a nurse? In 2000, I started my first registered nursing job at Caboolture Public Hospital on a medical ward. Now, that was pretty intense for a very sheltered and naive 23-year-old I was. It was a medical ward, so there was a lot of patients with cardiac and respiratory arrests and suicide attempts. Drinking Roundup was a big one in those days. Instead of ending their lives just drinking poison such as Roundup, I mean, it just burnt out their mouth, their throat, and just basically their entire gastrointestinal tract. To say I quickly grew up and discovered there was a whole new life out there, other than the one very sheltered one that I had experienced, was an understatement. Nursing was not what I thought it would be. I thought it was just lots of back rubs, bedside chats to help patients get back on their feet, and a beautiful, kind, and loving environment to work in. But I could not be further from that ideal dream if I tried. There was a toxic work environment. I was rushed off my feet. I mean, these are just all the things I can remember really from my nursing days. Now, from that day in the interview with the guidance officer, I refused to accept that limitation that she placed on me. And I was a 15-year-old kid, remember? My intention is the same for you, because these limitations that we place on ourselves, these limitations are the ones that we wish to accept. We don't need to accept them. We can let this limiting belief go and we can just choose a different belief. Now, I really want this podcast to be interactive. Now, my teaching style is very direct, explicit, and with guided instruction principles. That's basically what I like to follow. And that's my entire 10 Quick Questions a Day program. If you don't use it for daily reviews, have a look at the link and grab it straight away, because it's perfect for that direct instruction. Now, I will endeavor to engage you just like I do my students, so you don't wander off and drift off. And look, the number one way for engagement is participation. I certainly won't have you rolling out that big brown paper and then putting it up and having to present it like at those staff PD days. God, I hated that so much. But now you are going to get out a pen and paper, and I really want you to ask yourself, what limitations are you placing on yourself? It might be like questions like, why aren't you applying for that principal role or that uni degree or a new job at a different school or applying for that loan for your dream car? All great questions to start unpacking these reasons. So why don't you think that you can get that prac placement at that great school that you want to be a part of? Or why can't you go all in on this business stream? Drop down a day of teaching and just go part-time. So you're going to give a whole full day to focus on building this little business. Only you know what your limitation is and what you are stopping yourself from achieving. I can't answer that for you. But there is always a reason. Maybe you don't think that you're good enough, which was always mine. Or what will people think you driving around in a fancy car? Well, firstly, who cares what people think? Maybe you might be just totally happy in a new job role and this scares you because you only have known misery and sadness in your day-to-day working life. I mean, this is why when things get measured, things get improved. When we start facing these hard questions, that's when we can really start finding out why we do what we do, why we are stuck in positions in life that we really don't want to be in. And this is when we can start to unpack our mindset issues and our limitations and our blocks and start to really live the life that we deserve. You will find these reasons will be discovered from probably early on in your childhood when you really start to delve into them. Now, what I thought were negative experiences in my life were every bit the best things that have happened to me, and why I am so passionate about inspiring teachers to dream big and achieve those soul whispers, and why I coach on these topics to help teachers find joy in their life and therefore flow that joy back into their classroom. Now, my journey took me from a poor Australian standards childhood. There were sort of no trips away for me, no luxuries. We had everything we needed, but not everything that we wanted. And I worked at Sizzler as a 15-year-old. I was a law clerk then after school, running briefs to court, sitting on big trials with barristers. When our law firm needed a representative from the firm, when the solicitors didn't wish to go on those big trials, that I was sent at 18, like it was so hilarious. But that's where I saw the big life that I'd never experienced from a single mum life in my normal teenage years. And then I moved from there to a nursing career, then to a teacher, and now the author of 34 classroom workbooks and owner of the educational company Lizard Learning. I learned that life isn't always going to be a straight path. There is no way that in year 8 when I started high school, I thought that I would be here today recording a podcast for teachers on mindset and personal development and self-help and really helping teachers understand the psychology of what they need to teach these days. However, we really need to embrace all the opportunities, even if they don't align with our initial plans, and that has certainly been in my case. Now, the next soul whisper that chatted to me, walking the halls on night duty, cleaning out bedpans, when I was knee-deep in water, bathing elderly patients and doing my medication rounds, and that was this desire to teach. Now, teaching became my next calling, and it was really a leap of faith. I discovered the power of the soul whisper, and it's that inner voice telling us what we can be, do, and have more. But when we ignore it, life has a way of getting our attention in unexpected ways. So what happens with that soul whisper when you only listen? Now, trust me, it gets louder and louder when you don't act on it. The universe, it will give you signs to go for it. I'll go deeper into how the universe and the science of the law of attraction works throughout many more episodes. But when you don't act on these little soul nudges, God winks, whatever you want to call them, the voice in your head starts with a whisper. And then it talks, then it shouts, and eventually it will hit you over the head with a brick. You might lose your job. I mean, probably not a teacher job because they can't keep teachers anyway as it is. Or you become sick with something big like glandular fever, an illness that has you totally bedridden, and all you have time to do is think about your future, and you have the time to do the research and the Googling and finding or phoning that next right person to help you with their soul whisper. Or perhaps some other massive life change happens that shakes your foundations, your world, and then you have no choice but to act on this little soul whisper that keeps at you every day. Okay, we have got some pen and paper time again. Now you can do these activities mentally or physically, but if you do have a pen, then why not create even like a special Teaching Unfiltered dream mindset journal and honor this time together and this learning time that you are discovering about yourself. Log these activities we do in one place for a really great daily reference when you need a pick-me-up or to look back on an action that you found hard, but you changed it, or something new that you've promised yourself that you would start and you did it. These feelings, when we do these little things and we can look back on what we've done and changed, they create these feelings of accomplishments and they feel great. And so it makes it easier to achieve more of them and to move the needle on your life. Now, what is a soul whisper that talks to you every day to start, to build, or create? It's something. And I absolutely know that it is. And I want you to DM me. No one else will know. And I want you to DM me at lizardlearning.com, at lizard_learning on Instagram, and let me know. But if you want everyone to know, and this is really good, make yourself accountable. Tell our audience, tell your own audience. And when you do that, it really starts shifting the needle on, you think, okay, well, I've told many people now, so I better shift into gear and get this done. If you want other people to know, please tag me openly and I will share that at Lizard Learning on Instagram. Now, I have coached so many women in the business and empowerment space, and there is always something that we want to start. There's not many people that have zippity, nada, nothing going on up there. Now, the first part in achieving this soul whisper is to recognize it and start feeling your way into it. Now, personal development, spirituality, psychology, mindset, it played a crucial role in my teaching career. I wouldn't have survived it. I would have ended up in a mental institution. The power of belief and positivity, they were my companions as I navigated the challenges of the classroom because I was on struggle street. Now, I turned to resources like The Secret to keep me inspired. Now, this was written by an inspiring female author, Rhonda Byrne. If you are new to the world of law of attraction or visualization or manifestation, ideas such as thoughts become things, this book is a great beginner's guide and a great place to start. All this work on my inner self empowered me to do something pretty unimaginable for little old Cindy, who wouldn't talk much in a group, didn't have a lot of confidence in her ability. And this is when I was able to start Lizard Learning. Now, as a teacher, I developed this program called the 10 Quick Questions a Day program to help my students. It's a program rooted in structure and designed for consistent revision, review, and practice. Now, it was pretty intense time writing so many books quite quickly. Now, I'm going to give you a little glimpse into how I did this if you're interested. You might wish to write a book yourself one day. Here are just 3 little quick tips of what I did. I set the intention that I was going to be an educational publisher. That was one thing. You might have some goals. Set that intention first. What is it that you want to do? All goals and changes, they start with your belief and your energy first before anything. And that's why mindset is so important. So if you don't believe you can, well, then it will never come. So thoughts become things. Write that little quote down and put it everywhere that you can see it in the day. And because when you believe you can, well, then things, people, places, circumstances, and events, they really start to line up to make it happen for you. Now, number 2, I worked on a page every single day for years and years. 34 books were not written overnight. They were written by consistently writing every day. And 3, I worked with the universe to bring me that right people, places, circumstances, and events to bring the right person to help me at the right time. I didn't know admin people. I didn't know project managers. Everyone has come to me when I needed it because of my belief in the universe and that there is something bigger and greater out there than us. But I'm going to be talking about that in other podcasts. Now, this program, the 10 Quick Questions a Day program, it transformed my students, and this led to the creation of Lizard Learning because of the overwhelming evidence from my own students just year after year that a system of daily reviews in literacy and numeracy, it's those small chunks every single day of content to learn, it was a game changer. for my students' confidence. That my students' confidence soared and their results were outstanding. Now, I really want to be creating a movement around the importance of reteaching, revising, reviewing, offering feedback, and practice. Daily practice is the key. Now, this stuff is not new. It's all based on the science of learning. I'm science of learning obsessed. If you want to check out Anita Archer's work on guided and explicit instruction, she has really simple YouTube things, like YouTube clips to learn about guided and explicit instruction. But I also have an incredible masterclass. I will include the link below. And I've created this so you can learn about the research of the curve of forgetting and the primacy and recency effect. I go into these simple little research-based principles that really will show you the importance of the science of learning and how kids really learn. And when you know these simple little things, when we get educated, then this is when we can bring these things back into the classroom and into our teaching to make teaching and learning so easy for our kids. This is all really interesting stuff. And if you want to know how your students or children at home actually learn and learn the struggles as to why they may not be learning and how to improve it just so easily, then please jump onto that masterclass. The link will be below. Now, the most important role I have is mum to Ava. She is 10 as of the recording in 2023 of this podcast. I've raised Ava on my own from a newborn, and I have built Lizard Learning with no financial support, zippity zero knowledge of business, and definitely no idea how much personal growth this took to own a business such as this. Because when you place author to your name, boy, oh boy, does that bring up a whole lot of inner stuff. If you are sitting there with a great idea, this is your permission to go for it. Now, my journey as a teacher and as an entrepreneur has shown me the power of mindset and personal development. And these skills have been transformative for my students. And I want to share them with you, and I'll dive deeper into these topics in future episodes. Now, all of this information, it has just been a real glimpse of what you can expect from Teaching Unfiltered. We're going to explore personal development and mindset and spirituality and just many more ways to empower you towards your dreams and your goals, whether that is inside or outside of the classroom. It's to bring the joy back into your life, to feel like you are living again if you have lost it for teaching a little bit. I'm just going to share a quote by Lewis Carroll that might resonate with you. And it is, if you don't know where you want to go, then it doesn't matter which path you take. Now, this quote suggests that it's okay to start something even if you don't know where it will lead you. It's important to take that first step and trust that the path will become clearer as you move forward, which it will. A new grad not knowing how to organize your reading group activities, to a teacher starting their new side hustle, or a retired teacher not knowing what is coming next to fill your cup like teaching did. You are in the same position as me right now. I'm not sure where this little podcast will take me, but that soul whisper wouldn't let go until I tried. And that's all we can do when we are starting anything new. Try new things and see what sticks. Now, I hope this little quote inspires you to take action towards your goals and that new learning curve that you might be facing, even if you are unsure on where it might take you. So goodbye, my friends, and I will see you in the next episode of Teaching Unfiltered. Please remember to tell your friends, take a pic of this episode and include something that resonated, and share it on Instagram, tagging the podcast, and please rate and review this podcast wherever you listen, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening today. I take your time very seriously and appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with me. Now, before you go, please take a quick minute to rate and give a 5-star review. Our little podcast community that you and I are building together. Your review will help me so much to reach more teachers to help and support. Now, until next episode, you can head to the website, Lizard Learning, for all the resources to empower your teacher life. And I'll see you in the next episode.